Hello, I'm Gavin from Clubhouse TV with sportsbet.io, and I'm very excited to be able to speak to our very special guest today. Now, let's start with some facts, stats and numbers. Winner of 4 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups and 7 League Cups, inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame in 2009 and awarded an MBE in the 2016 Birthday Honours List. Our guest today is a true legend of women's football in England and around the world, and inspired many of the players who will be playing in the Women's World Cup 2023. It is with great delight to welcome into the clubhouse Marieanne Spacey Cale. And here is Marieanne Spacey Cale joining us live from the training ground of Southampton Football Club, Staplewood. How are you, Marieanne?
I'm very well today, thank you. The girls have trained well and the sun's been out, so perfect day.
Yeah, because you're gearing up for the brand new season, which is just a few weeks ago. First game of the season away at Lewis, and then you were at home to Blackburn Rovers. So it was your first season in the Championship last season. I'm going to go through some stats. In fact, the most incredible stat I've found is that at the start of last season, you said, you know what, we aim to finish 6th. That's what you said, correct? And
Yeah.
Where did you finish?
6th.
I mean, what more do you want? So I have to ask the question. I have to ask the question, where are you aiming to finish this season?
Above 6th. No, we've got to look this season to being better than we were last season, which I think we will be, judging by the way the girls are training. And we have to be pushing for promotion. We have to be top 2. So that's our aim.
Southampton women's football team has come a long way in quite a short space of time, and there is also an incredible stat. So Southampton FC Women, the current version of, were founded in 2017 because there was a Southampton women's team beforehand, but the funding stopped and it was disbanded. Then it started again, and then you joined pretty soon afterwards, really, didn't you? 2017, 2018 is when you joined. And you were in the Southern Region Premier Division and you got promoted. Is it true that you won every single game?
Yeah, 18 out of 18 wins we had that season. And there's 2 teams still in Southampton. There's us, Southampton FC Women, and then there's Southampton Women's FC.
Yeah.
So we're so it's great that there's that much talent and not like the number of people playing in the region to have 2 really good, strong women's teams playing.
You actually won 54 of the 59 league matches, didn't you, really, when you first started? I mean, that is a phenomenal record, I have to say. That was just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was, and we set out what we wanted to do early when I first came in, and that was to be the first point was to be in the Championship. We're in there now, so now we're pushing for Women's Super League. So yeah, it always helps when you build that kind of winning mentality early, but then the games get tougher, the leagues got tougher, and the Championship is definitely a challenging league. So but we have got some good experience of winning in the past.
And how you bearing up for this season then? New signings, new players, pre-season. Everybody hates pre-season, I guess, with the whole fitness stuff. But how's it going so far?
Yeah, really good. We've got some new signings in that's going to definitely add value to the club or to the squad. Pre-season, the girls have come back in good shape, so we're just kind of we can do a lot more but work with the ball than just pure fitness. So I want to be able to be fit with the ball as well as without the ball. So we've so far got a really good foundation in the first couple of weeks of good fitness levels because they've come back well. And then we've got some really good work done with the ball. So it's exciting and the vibe's really good. And there's a real strong feel of the group that they're all looking to be successful this season.
I have to compliment you on your defensive record for last season as well, because, of course, Bristol City got promoted to the Women's Super League. They did so conceding just 12 goals across the season, and even though you finished 6th, you actually conceded 15, which is the second lowest as well. So you built on a fairly strong defence.
Yeah, definitely. most people will find this really hard to hear this from me, being an ex-striker, but you have to have those defensive foundations to give you the chance to jump into attack. So we knew it would be tough. We knew that the teams would be more experienced than us because it was our first year in the Championship. But we knew we had to be defensively secure. And like you said, conceding only 15, it was just we needed to convert more at the other end.
And what is it like for you as an ex-player? And you are, as I said on the intro, an absolute legend of the game. You score goals for fun. You've scored hat-tricks pretty much everywhere you've gone, both for England and for Arsenal. You did one at Liverpool. You scored a goal at the Cop End as well. Scored hat-tricks for Fulham. When you're stood on the touchline watching the girls train, do you just want to really get stuck in once more? Do you miss it?
Like, there's certain times when we've kind of missed chances and I'm thinking, come on, that's got to go away. If I was playing, I might have done this. But I just think now I just have to let my head rule my heart rather than my heart rule my head. Even in training, I'm thinking, I'll go and just join in a bit. And I have to remember that, as much as I want to be 21 again, it's not going to happen. So leave it to the players that are fit and strong and can do it now. And I'll just try and help them be as good as they can be.
And what was the transition like for you from player to manager? I know you had plenty of coaching experience. You got your UEFA Pro licence, manager of Fulham Ladies, and then you became, behind the scenes at England under 16s, 17s, under 19s, and got involved in the England national side as well. What was that transition like for you as a player into a manager?
Well, when I first made that transition, it was horrendous. But I didn't, as much as I'd coached, I didn't understand coaching at that level. So, my first tournament that I played as a coach was the UEFA Cup qualifying rounds. So there was no bigger baptism of fire, and I hadn't got that, like I said, coaching and that coach's mentality yet. I was still, in my head, was still a player. So I really struggled at first season to transition from a player to a coach. And you still have moments now where I look back and I think, that was tough. And there's still things, I'll make mistakes every day on the training pitch. And I think that's part of being human and being vulnerable in front of your players. But I always go back to, I'm in a better place now than I was when I first transitioned. So, it was a tough one to switch hats sort of from Sunday being a player to Monday then going in and being a coach. But you just got to persevere and work and keep believing in yourself and have belief of people around you that you can do the job.
Yeah. Who were the people that you were learning from when you were coming into coaching then? Who were the ones that you could turn to and just call up and say, I need some advice, or, am I doing this right? Am I doing wrong? Did you have a soundboard in football that you could turn to?
Yeah, I was quite fortunate that there was like Vic Akers at Arsenal was always he was my coach when I was playing, and he kind of made me understanding the person and not necessarily just the player. Keith Bonus was what took me through my coaching qualifications, and he's always been a good sounding board. And then there was people that came in that were just sort of like mentors for me as I went through my coaching badges. One of them that stands out as well was Jamie Robinson, who was who's I think is at Notts Forest now, but he was at the FA, and we did this project together with Birmingham University, and he's just way he looks at people and looks at how you can get the best out of them was somebody that I thought that's somebody I can really learn from, and he was quite he was quite influential without really realising himself. And I have to mention my husband because he keeps me grounded. He's a football man. He's enjoys football. He's coached. He's around mentoring now. So, and now he's kind of my sounding board as well. So we have some good, interesting conversations at home.
And where did the advice come from football that said, you know what you need at your training ground? What's that? You need some Lego. That's what you need. You need some Lego, because I can see over your shoulder that you've got some Lego, which is, I'm going to be honest, not something I expected. Is that just for something bit of downtime? Is that something that's, I don't know, what's it doing there? Is basically the question I'm asking.
Yeah, so I'm quite a visual person, and I like to kind of try to pretend that I'm creative and innovative at times. And the Lego is just our building blocks. So if we want to get to the top of the game, this is what we've got to do to achieve it. And you've got to have this strong base. So hence the shape of it is there's a strong base. There's a foundation through the middle which you can't see, which is all around values, who we are as people, and then at the top, that's the top of what we want to achieve. So you build your foundations to be able to give you the chance to achieve your success, but don't lose sight of who you are and the values that you hold dear.
Or lose the Lego pieces either. That's an important thing with Lego. Is that something that you've introduced, your own style, or is that something that you've learned from someone else and you've come off the pitch and you've gone, oh God, they've got the Lego pieces out again?
No, it's just literally something that I'm sure other people have done it. It was just something that I hadn't seen it before. It was just we used it last season. I think it was the season before with when we were in the playoff before we got into the championship, and it was quite crude at that time. It was literally just 3 or 4 blocks, just building it and talking about if we concentrate on the very top block, then we lose the process of getting there. So then I started to think this is a bit like it's like like I said 3 or 4 blocks, and then I kind of came up with got more Lego so I could make a bigger piece.
I love the fact we've had a 5-minute chat about Lego as well. Before we move on to your career and how it started, and I'm so intrigued about your career because you played through a massive transit. In fact, the biggest transitional period for women's football in England. You know, you were before FA and after the FA. And they took over. But before that, I know that Southampton moved, the women's team moved from playing at FC Totton into St Mary's, and you started sharing the training ground Staplewood as well. How much has that been an asset to your team and to yourself?
Oh, amazing! Because one thing that we've always spoken about here in all the time I've been here is how we should have this one club feel, and it's normal. Football should be normal. It should be about the women's first team, the men's first team, the 21s, the 18s, the academy. The structure of football is no different. It's just that it's just relative to supporters, fan base, commercial, etc. So for us to have the opportunity to be playing and training here, it just makes it feel like it's one club. Everyone's invested in each of the squads to be successful. And I think that's something that we've worked hard to achieve over the last few years. And, we'll continue to influence and educate on how important it is that you have that feel around the club.
Yeah, as I said at the start of this as well, the championship season starts on the 27th of August. You play on a Sunday and you're away at Lewes, and then your following game is at St Mary's a week later at home to Blackburn Rovers. So if you're local to Southampton and enjoy your football, go and watch. Right, I am going to go right back to the very beginning of when you started playing football, not too long ago. And somehow involved in all of this is the Met Police as well, which is rather intriguing. So let's go back to school. And were you the girl at school who was playing football better than the boys? Was your ability stand out from the playground immediately?
That's probably for other people to say, but I wasn't allowed to play in school. They said that the PE teacher at the time said girls couldn't play football with the boys. So I had to try and find a way to. I played in the playground during the play times and stuff. In my first primary school, they literally halved the pitch or halved the playground and the field. So girls were on this side, boys were on that side. And then as I went into middle school, it became a lot more loose in terms of I could play football with the boys, but I was never allowed to play for the boys' football team. So that kind of frustrated me, but it also drove me on because I wanted to play and I wanted to find how I could play. And my dad at the time was always pushing to say, right, let's make sure we find somewhere that you can play. So school wasn't great. I did every other sport. I played in the boys' cricket team. I was allowed to play in that, even though I think I was the last bats person, never bowled, and was fielding out on the out by the boundary. So that made me feel really valued. But what was really important for me was that I just kept persevering because I knew I had this dream of wanting to play for England one day, and whatever setback came to me, I would only see it as something to conquer and keep me focused on that dream.
Yeah, because in today's day and age, and this is the transition I was talking about, you can't imagine a school now turning around to a girl and saying, no, you can't play football, that's just not possible. Netball is your sport, or hockey is your sport, but not football. But in a way, it lit the fire inside you. So even though it's frustrating and annoying, it did instill that drive that I am going to do this. So, it's kind of turning a negative into a positive. And also, look at you now. Look, I wonder what the school teachers were saying when they were seeing you banging goals for England left, right, and centre as well.
Yeah, I'm sure they remembered me then.
Yeah, look at me now. Stick me on the boundary now. That's what you were saying. Yeah. Right. So you were in the netball team, and in the netball team, is this right? There were some girls who like to play football as well, and somehow, where does the Met Police come into all of this rather randomly?
Yeah, so I was playing netball for the local youth club, Oakway Youth Club, and there was 3 or 4 of us that kept getting told off because we kept kicking the netballs around. So we had some really forward-thinking people within that youth club, and they said, right, let's look for the opportunity for how you can play football as a group, and we'll put you into a football team. So the London Union of Youth Clubs had a girls' league. There was only 4 teams in it, so it was a 5-a-side league. But we went into that, we entered that, and we were, quite successful in that. And then we had the Met Police did a national 5-a-side competition, or the Met Police did a 5-a-side competition. So we thought, you know what, we'll enter a team into there. So Beryl and Reenie, it was, who were the 2 at the youth club, said, right, we're going to get into this. We're going to put into this, and we played our qualifying rounds, but the final was actually at Wembley Arena, and it was a culmination of all the local and region, regional London regions, all came together for a finals night at Wembley Arena. And we were Little Oakway Youth Club. We were playing Millwall Lionesses in the final, who were a well-established women's setup already. And we beat them 1-0, and it was just amazing to be in front of 7,500 people there, and to be real underdogs to then go and win the competition, which was in the Guinness Book of Records as the biggest 5-a-side competition. So, again, you get that little taste of things, and that, again, just like you were saying, ignites the fire and keeps that fire burning of, I'd love to do this, more and more and more, and play in front of these kinds of crowds. So, yeah, that's how the Met Police and football came together.
I love the randomness of it. I love it. How old were you when this was all happening, by the way?
I think the first time we played in it, we were in the 12 to 14s age group, and then we played in the next 3 years as well. So I think we won every time we played in the final. We won. So,
and was there anybody else in that team who's gone on to have a career in football? Clearly not to the extent that you have, because you're top of the Lego block, I'm going to call it now. I normally say top of the tree, but you reached the top of the Lego block. Was there anybody else who went on to forge a career in football?
So when we played Millwall Lionesses, they had Hope Powell in the team. Yeah. Obviously, went on to manage the England team and is a footballing legend in the women's game here as well. There was a Welsh international, Jane Bartlett, who played for Millwall. In our team, we had twins, Janet and Sandra Parmenter. I remember their names because I was at school with them as well. Donna Monksfield, and then Alison. It's the last one that I can't remember. But we had sort of like three pretty decent players, and then the rest kind of fitted in. But we just worked really well together, and they've all. I'm still in touch sometimes with the twins, and then obviously with Hope, still in contact with her. So as well as the competition, it just built this network of people that you're still friends with now as well.
Yeah, your path and Hope Powell's path have crossed more than once, shall we say, both at club level and international level. Who knew the story would have developed between you two when you first met at the Met Police 5-a-side? So I also, on my research here, it said you joined the British Oxygen Team at 13. Now I've gone, right, okay, what's the British Oxygen Team? And it's gone, no, there's nothing here. And I'm like, what on earth is the British Oxygen Team? So you have to tell me, what is that?
So this was when I was trying to get into playing like full 11-a-side football, and my dad, we phoned up. It was a team called Kingston Grasshoppers, and they said I was too young to trial, so they didn't want to trial me. And then there was a friend that my dad knew who had a works team, which was BOC Morden, so it was British Oxygen. So they had a works team, so it was a factory in Morden, where close to where we were living. They said, no, we'll trial her. She can come and play. So the minute I got there and had this trial, it was like I was straight into the first team. It was, I was 13 playing with, I was the youngest, and then the oldest I think was something like 36, 37. So it was basically a works team that had come together, lots of, these 15, 16, 17 women that wanted to play football, got this group together, sponsored by the factory that they were working, or the people they were working for, and then entered into this league. I think it was the Greater London League. And I just played. That's all I wanted to do was play. And then obviously that gave me my first taste of 11-a-side women's football at the age of 13.
I love that. Literally thrown in at the deep end. Thrown in at the deep end. And is this is because women's football at that time wasn't as structured? There were no youth levels. I mean, English, the men's game, it was literally you had youth teams and then under 15, 16, 17s, where that structure wasn't there. For you, literally just thrown in. But that must have worked in your favour.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I just sat down one day and kind of reflected on my life lessons, a lot of my life lessons come from being told you shouldn't do stuff, making me want to do it even more. Being put into situations where, like you said, it's sink or swim. So you've got to survive, not survive in that sense, but you've got to find your feet and deal with different situations, older people, conversations. So, I think life lessons have been so important from when I started playing football to now. And I think the structure of the game, like we said before, Millwall Lionesses, and there was lots of teams. There was leagues at the senior age groups or the women's age group, but not much in terms of young pathway.
And at what stage did you think, do you know what, I'm actually quite good at this sport. I'm actually better than I know you'll say that's for other people to judge, and I don't look at that, but clearly you know how well you are at a sport, and the fact that you can stick the ball in the back of the net better than most people, and you have more good games than not compared to other people. At what point did you go, do you know what, I really am actually quite good at this?
It probably was in that team because it was like a works team, and there was just such a varying level of player that they just kept giving me the ball and just go and you do it. We'll just be around. You go and play. But I suppose once I sort of moved on then to Friends of Fulham, it started to even out. There was a lot of good players in that team. So it, again, a life lesson was the more you go up and work with other people that are as good as you or around that level with you, you've got to keep striving to be better. So that was when the kind of Friends of Fulham really made me kind of hone my skills and be more aware of teamwork and communication, as the other team were like, go on, you have the ball, and then we'll just follow you.
So when did becoming a professional footballer or a footballer, as you said, you joined Friends of Fulham. I know you ended up in the WFA Cup final with them, which I want to talk about at Old Trafford against, I think it's called Lionesses Pacific, who are now known as Everton Football Club. I love the random names that football teams were to what they are now. Friends of Fulham ended up being Wimbledon, to my knowledge,
Yes.
down the line.
Yeah.
So how did you end up at Friends of Fulham, and when did you go, do you know what, I think I could actually make a career out of football?
Yeah, so when I was when I was in the London Union of Youth Clubs with the five-side, we were playing against who's still my best mate today. So we've been best mates since we were 11. She was playing for one of the teams against us. So her career she went to Friends of Fulham and then invited me to Friends of Fulham and come into trial with them. So she went on to play for Wales, and I just joined her at Friends of Fulham, and like I said, that kind of set me up for now playing at that next level with that type of player, which helped me to progress.
Yeah, I want to talk about this WFA Cup final because this was in April 1989. Do you remember where you played it?
Yeah, it was at Old Trafford.
Old Trafford. And the funny thing about this is, so the WFA Cup final is now the Women's FA Cup final.
Yeah.
And the last FA Cup final in the women's game was Chelsea 1, Man United 0 at Wembley, with 77,390 people turned up to watch it, which is astonishing. I think it's only one of the last 6 FA Cup women's finals that's been below somewhere like 30,000. So every single year, it's been, you know, tens of thousands of people have watched this in person, never mind TV. The attendance for your final at Old Trafford was 941 people. And and it just makes you realise how women's football in England and across the world has now grown. It's just unrecognisable for when you were starting out.
Absolutely, and it's what is as well with that cup final that really stands out. And again, you know, this puts football and life into perspective. The week before had been Hillsborough, and a lot of the girls had been. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so the week before our cup final at Old Trafford against Leeso had been the Hillsborough disaster. And a few of the girls that played for Leeso had been in the Leppings Lane stand. So we had to, you know, as the two clubs, it was a decision: did we play the game out of respect for what had happened? But Leeso were adamant. They said no. I think it's what it's what Liverpool need. The sort of like city of Liverpool need something. So we played the game, and you know they beat us 3-2. And it's one of those games where, as much as you're in a cup final, you just go, yeah, that's probably the right result because of everything that some of those players had gone through, their families. You know, we played the game. It was played in a really good spirit. And then the day after the final, we went to Anfield and, you know, laid our shirts down and put flowers down. So that was such a poignant cup final for us because of putting into perspective that Leeso wanted to play that game out of respect for the people that had been lost in Hillsborough.
And then rather randomly after that, you flew out to Helsinki and then you played football in Helsinki, which I love the randomness. Met Police, Lego, Helsinki. It's just all rather random. But when you came back from Helsinki, why did you go to Helsinki for, by the way? And what was the experience like over there? Because you came back to UK not too long afterwards.
Yeah, so I'd... before Helsinki, I was offered to play professionally in Italy for Lazio. And, you know, I went out there and literally you thought it was a short stay in Helsinki. I was there for 4 days. I came back because they wouldn't guarantee I'd be released to play for England. I couldn't go to training camps. I was always there. So the one thing I wanted to do was play for England. So because there was no guarantee that I could fly back, I flew back after 4 days and said I wasn't going to sign the contract. Which then meant when I played the following season for Fulham, and then there was in Finland they played in our summer or in the summer period, so I could finish the season with Fulham, and then go out to Helsinki and play the summer season in Helsinki. So I was out there 3 or 4 months and just played, you know, kept playing. It was a dream for me because I didn't, you know, I was just playing football whenever I could, and then came back and had to get another job. But it was just a great opportunity for me to try something different, another culture, another country and another style of play. So it was, although it was a short period of time, it was for their season in the summer.
And then you came back, and how many goals did you score in your first 5 games back in football in the UK? Do you remember? Have a guess.
No.
Have a guess.
In my first number, how many games?
5.
14.
12.
12. Oh.
12. Should have been 14, but two offside. Yeah, no. So he scored 12 goals in 5 games. I mean, let's talk about coming back and hitting him in the back. And then Arsenal came. Is it because of clearly because of your goal scoring form that England came and the legend? You've already given a mention. I mean, he is Mr. Arsenal ladies, isn't he, Vic Akers? I mean, he's the guy. For those who don't know, he was the kit man for the men's team. He was there with Arsene Wenger all the way through his tenure at Highbury, later on to become the Emirates, and he founded the women's team. And his record, 36 trophies in 16 years. I mean, the guy's a legend, and he signed you.
Yeah, so this was when the transition from Friends of Fulham to Wimbledon, and we had a great time at Fulham and a great time when Wimbledon took over. But we were always seemed to be the nearly team, and I was just driven to. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to win trophies, and when Vic came in and said, look, we'd really like you to come over, it just made sense for me because I'd been at Friends of Fulham and Wimbledon for about 10, 12 years. And it just made sense that it was the time was right now for me to go on. And then, like I said, the rest is history. I had a really successful time with Arsenal, not just on the pitch, but again, the people, the camaraderie of the group and the infrastructure within the group, that's kind of taught me about how do you influence, how do you get sort of like the women's program, the women's team in around the men's team, around the men's training ground, etc. Vic was very, very good at that. So I learned a lot of lessons from Vic around integration.
You joined Arsenal in 1993. And 1993 is a very, very pivotal year for you, for Arsenal, for England, and for the women's game in England, because that was the year that the Football Association pretty much moved in. So before 1993, it was a separate organisation that ran women's football in England and across the UK, whereas 1993 was the year the Football Association said, no, we'll look after you as well. What was that like, that transitional period of the early 90s?
Yeah, it was... As a player, you kind of have these things like you go, when we were with the Women's Football Association, there was one full-time member of staff, the rest were volunteers. And, they did a fantastic job getting the game to where it was, but it was ready at that point to step up. And then when the FA came in, as players, we were just, I remember just sitting in the kit room or just like, this is your tracksuit for today and this is your training kit for today. And we're saying, we haven't got to wash it. And we haven't got to put it on our balconies or dry it, so we're ready for training it tomorrow. So as players, they're the kind of things you think. Yeah. It's like, I've got fresh training kit every day. We've got bizarrely footballs pumped up all the time. So all those things that in terms of performance suddenly changed, and you had a resource then that just gave you the chance to just purely concentrate on your training, on your playing games, and started to drip feed a little bit more around, a little bit around nutrition and using weights and the gym program. So that changed that kind of changed the face of the game, because before you trained how you thought was right, then you started to get educated and have more education around all the things that would help you be better and perform better. So that was a big kind of transition and a big switch, which was, as you see now, is taking the game again to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk about for hours about your time at Arsenal, and we've got England to talk about. We've got the World Cup to talk about as well. We've got Behind the Cause coming up and a bit of a fun quiz as well. But just, you spent many years at Arsenal. You won a lot of things at Arsenal. You are a legend at Arsenal. Sum up your best time at Arsenal, your one particular highlight, if that is possible.
It's hard because, like you said, there were so many good times, but I think the one that there's probably two that really stick out. When I first signed, Vic said, what do you want to be better at? How can we help you be a better player? I said, I'm rubbish at heading. I said, I cannot head the ball. So if you can make me better in, finishing off from headers, then that'll be great. And the first game we played was a pre-season friendly, and Michel Curley went flying down the left wing, put a ball in. I was just outside the box and I met it with my head, and it went in the top corner. Vic was going, no, you'll be all right with your head. We can deal with that. We can work with that. and then I think it was the 1995 FA Cup final against Liverpool at Tranmere Rovers. And, I'd been marked out of the game by Becky Easton until about the 82nd, 83rd minute. And then to score the winner in a cup final, I think as a goal scorer, as a player, that's the kind of things that you want to, they're the memories that you have on the pitch that you kind of are really proud of.
Yeah, that was, as you said, that was the FA Cup final against Liverpool at Prenton Park, which is pretty much in Liverpool, which I always find laughing about. They literally had to travel about a bus stop away to get to the ground, where you had to travel all the way from London. I love the fact that it was so close to Liverpool and you went to their back garden essentially and beat them. I do like that. You mentioned 1995, of course. We've got you playing in the World Cup in 1995, another pivotal year as well. You made your debut for England in 1984, where there was no World Cup then. We're on the cusp of the World Cup now, but there was no World Cup then. The first Women's World Cup was 1991. So do you remember the tournament that it was a qualifier for? Do you remember what you used to play in Italy?
The Mundialito.
Yeah. Do you know what Mundialito means?
I believe it's Little World Cup.
That's right. Mundialito is Spanish for Little World Cup. So you made your debut in a qualify for the Little World Cup, which is just absolutely astonishing, which you went on to win a couple of times as well. And all of this was based in Italy. What was that experience when you were stepping into England for the first time?
It's just... you're playing for your country, regardless of, obviously I played for England, but it's just your pride of you're representing your family, your friends, that you're reaching the highest level that you can in the sport that you've chosen, obviously football for me. But it was also that once I got my first cap, I wanted a second, and then I wanted a third, and then I wanted to get into double figures, and then I wanted to get, could I get 50? And, I just kept driving myself to say, can I, how many times can I play, but how many times can I perform as well? Because I didn't want to just, with England, you want to perform every time you go out on the pitch for the reasons I've just said. So, England for me was, just pride and just, thankful for the support that I'd had, because obviously we weren't professional players. So family and friends always helping me, always pushing me to keep striving for what I wanted to do. And that was obviously to play for England, but stay grounded as a human being and not sort of get, expect to play. I wanted to work hard and earn the right to be playing every time I got selected.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Women's World Cup from Australia and New Zealand. Are you going to be up in the early hours of the morning to watch some of this, or is that what you're going to be doing, by the way? Because some of the games are kicking off like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
no, I think so. I think, you want to watch it. You want to see the occasion that it is and feel it, because, you want to, it's like I said, the game is growing so much. How are Australia now and New Zealand now embracing the World Cup and the people over there? So
1995 World Cup. We'll just go back to your first World Cup. So the 1991, the Women's World Cup, the first one was held in China. Do you know what's special about that World Cup? Do you know how long the games were?
Did they play 80 minutes?
They played 80 minutes. They didn't play the full 90. They played 80 minutes. 1995 was the first time they played 90 minutes. And they trialled a 2-minute timeout in each half as well. So they were playing with the women's game. Oh, we'll trial out a 2-minute. So no reason whatsoever. Sometimes we'll just have 2-minute break. Why? Just cuss. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. And it's funny, isn't it? Because if you come to these days, we have drinks breaks now. So it was literally a drinks break. So timeout, and the tactics boards would come out and the coaches would be there, and we just go, just get me a drink, because it's like 28, 29 degrees. So, yeah, I remember them trialing the timeouts, and at first we were a little bit unsure, but then I guess it kind of helped us in a couple of games where we had that reset moment.
What was that like, the 1995 World Cup for you? What's your main memories? You're at the World Cup, England's first ever World Cup, Women's World Cup.
Yeah, just the opening ceremony, just goosebumps, and just in awe of the fact that, we were there as an England squad, first time ever, and we were gonna perform on the highest stage in one of the highest stages in football, let alone sort of it's men's, women's football. Everyone that plays football wants to play in a World Cup. And then obviously we played our first game, which we won, and I managed to score. And then bizarrely, we left the first game and we got an overnight train to the next destination for the next game. And it was just this whole, it was just such an adventure. You're playing in the World Cup, so you're representing your country, but there was also this element of adventure to it as well. And the camaraderie and the group, we still sort of catch up now every so often, where our group of 7, group of 8, where we all just, it's like we've never been apart. We just, like the laugh, the belly laugh. It was exactly that when we were there, with a pure focus on let's be the best on the pitch we can, but let's enjoy the adventure as well.
Yeah, you won the opening game, as you said, 3-2. You also beat Nigeria 3-2 in the group stages as well to qualify through to the latter stages, where you were beaten by Germany. So it wasn't just a case of going to the World Cup. You were involved in some high-scoring games and drama all the way through it as well. So superb. Let's hope there's as much drama in this World Cup. We'll talk about the Women's World Cup, which starts with New Zealand taking on Norway. We've also got Australia against Republic of Ireland. The latter stages of the Women's World Cup from Australia and New Zealand will be covered by Clubhouse TV. Yes, we will be here for some UK kick-off times, 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. We'll be here. What's your thinking on England going into the World Cup? The last couple of World Cups, they've almost been there. They came third a couple of tournaments ago. They got to the semi-finals in the last two tournaments. They're missing their captain, Leah Williamson, which is I saw her play in the Women's Champions League for Arsenal against Juventus last season. So she's going to be a big miss, with Millie Bright stepping in as captain. What's your thoughts on England going into this World Cup?
Yeah, we're missing some big players with Leah out and Beth Mead out as well. But we've got some real talent, and we're on this crest of a wave, aren't we? This crest of momentum from the European Championships. I think what's probably helped us is we've drawn a couple of games, so that unbeaten record has gone with a loss as well against Australia. So I think that's probably been a help, rather than going in with this unbeaten record for I'm not sure how many games it is. Now there's this sense of now we've got to get back on an unbeaten run again if we want to win the World Cup. So I think we're in a good place. I think Serena's an excellent coach. She understands the players. She knows what she wants from them. She knows how she wants to play. Everything, from what I can gather, is like planned to within, all the dots and all the crosses are done. And so I think we're in a really strong position. I think there's, other teams, it's quite, I also think bizarrely, it's quite an open one. I think we're definitely one of the strongest teams. But I think other than us, it's like lots of teams will have, France are always there and thereabouts. Australia, I think, will be, if they get a bit of momentum as the host nation, I think they'll have a real say in what happens in this World Cup as well.
Yeah, Australia were a little bit, I wouldn't say unfancied, but if you look at the favourites to the tournament, you are talking about France. They'll always be there. Brazil with Marta scoring the goals as well. But of course, we know all about the striker up front for Australia, don't we? With Sam Kerr banging in the goals as well. So they could be ones to watch. Who are the key players for you for England? Who's the ones you're expecting? Yeah, they could deliver for the Lionesses in this tournament.
I think Kira Walsh is world class. She's such a clever player, and even when teams put a player on her to try and mark her out of the game, she still finds space and she'll still find passes that can penetrate the opposition. So I think she'll be really key. I think Millie Bright will be, as well, as that organisation, that real sort of solid centre back that makes the challenges, drives the team, and her actions as well as her communication is what drives the team on. Alicia Russo is a talent. Lauren Hemp with pace. Georgia Stanway, who will score for fun from distance. So I think we've got some real strong individuals, but I think we've also got a real team ethic of how we want to play, which gives us, I think, that edge to be able to be really successful.
Yeah, that's the thing with England, isn't it? We've got goals from midfield, certainly with Ella Toone popping in with goals all over the place as well. And also, and I think this is seriously key. And I think this is why the England men's team haven't won any major tournaments since '66. It's also a mental game in the belief that you can win a tournament. So this is the first major tournament, because England haven't just won the Euros; they've won a couple of tournaments afterwards as well, haven't they? They've won the Arnold Clark Cup as well, and what was it, the Finamaliso, I think it was, against Brazil. I think
Yeah.
So they're coming into this with a winning mentality, and the belief that you can win something sometimes really just takes you that extra. It takes you over the line. There's going up to the line, but there's getting over the line, and sometimes that's just a mental thing.
Definitely, and I think that's probably one of the underrated kind of areas of the game, is that psychology of winning mentality, togetherness of a squad, and the ability to come back quickly from setbacks, especially in tournaments. So I think that's where, again, England have got that real kind of edge in that we've been successful. We've had some really tight games where we've had to bounce back, like Spain in the European Championships when we were 1-0 down. We came back and won 2-0, even though it was, again, for long parts of the game we were under pressure. They're all things that you can now draw on, that says when we won the tournaments that we've won, we've come from behind, we've dominated games. So lots of different experiences to draw on.
Yeah, and also they got Serena Wiegmann. You already mentioned the defeat at home to Australia. I think football's a funny thing. The less you lose, the more it hurts when you do, kind of thing. You can get used to losing if you're on a losing run, and you start to become a bit numb to it. But Serena Wiegmann's been in charge for 32 games. She's only lost one of them, so that's got to sting. And maybe that defeat may have just come at the right time to remind you that you're not invincible. And that could propel England on to do well in the World Cup as well. I have to ask the question. I have to ask the question, and it's a yes. You know what's coming, don't you? It's a yes. It's a yes or no question. But will England win the World Cup?
I have to say yes. I'm a believer in this squad. I'm a believer in the coaching staff. I'm a believer that the success of recent years will culminate in a World Cup win.
And who are the other teams? You've already mentioned the Matildas. You've already mentioned Australia. Who are the other teams that you will be keeping an eye out for and saying they're a threat?
Spain, but they've had some troubles going in. So, for the sake of football, as a football fan, I hope they're sorted out, because I like the way they play. Japan, how they play, again, are a team that will focus on tournaments and build for tournaments. Germany, again, you never underestimate the Germans. So, like I said, it's quite an open tournament this year, and there's, America are always there physically in really good shape, and the coach there is trying to do slightly different things with the squad, but where better to bring everything together than in a World Cup tournament.
Yeah, England get their tournament underway against Haiti, and then they have Denmark and China in the group stages. Just to remind you that the latter stages from the round of 16, the Women's World Cup from Australia and New Zealand, will be covered on Clubhouse TV. Thank you. Now it is time for Behind the Cause. So this is where, in the Clubhouse, we're going to give a €500 donation to a charity of your choice. And you have chosen Deborah UK, which is a national charity supporting individuals and families affected by EB, which is epidermolysis bullosa, which is a skin disorder that causes the skin to become very fragile. Any trauma or friction to the skin can cause painful blisters. And this came to light, actually, with the legend that is Graham Souness, the ex-football manager and player for Liverpool, who swam the English Channel really recently, to raise money for Deborah after meeting 14-year-old EB sufferer Isla Grist. Why Deborah?
So many years ago, I was working in a leisure centre, and I was talking to a nurse who came in to do an aerobics class, bizarrely, and we were just talking about the things that she sees on a day-to-day basis, and she spoke about this charity and what they do for families and sufferers. And it's always been something, because as I've kind of gone through and I'm now a parent, the one thing that always makes me think about this charity is, as a parent, not being able to maybe hug your child or to give them a kiss without causing them pain. That just, it breaks my heart to think that those things, as can't happen. So it's not a charity, I think, that is well known. There's some massive charities out there, and they're all they're all very, very worthy. But bringing to light this charity for me has always been important. And just for a mum, a dad, a child to be able to have a hug and not feel pain, for me is what drives me with this. Certainly drives me with this charity.
Absolutely, it is awful. It really is. So €500 is going to Deborah UK. That is safe. But there's a chance to double the money, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and there's €50 on each question that you get right. Okay, so there's a chance to double this. The questions are about you, about football, and they're also quite random in certain parts. Are you ready to play the quick quiz? Let's go.
I am.
Are you ready for question number 1 for €50?
I am.
You made your England debut versus Belgium in 1984. What was the score?
2-1.
I'll ask again. What was the score? Come on, we're going to get some cash in. It wasn't 2-1. It was. I shouldn't do this, but I will. It was a draw. But you just got to give me the scoreline.
2-2 then.
No, it's 1-1.
1-0.
Yeah, it's 1-1.
I must be getting another game muddled up with it.
Okay.
1-0.
1 is the right answer. I'll allow it in. Question number 2. Near which well-known Italian city was that game played? I can give you some clues on this one if you like.
So it was in Lido de Jesolo.
Which is near?
Near Venice.
Is the right answer. So that's €100. If you get this one wrong, I really am having words with you, okay? And it's not a trick question, all right? But we're having words. I'll be throwing Lego blocks all over the place if you get this one wrong. What is your full name?
Marieanne Spacey Cale.
See, that's the easiest question you'll be asked in 2023. Absolutely guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Question number 4. Your full name is Marieanne Spacey Cale. How many letter E's are there in your name? Now, actually, you can actually cheat a little bit because it's behind me to a certain extent.
Yeah,
Do you want me to move?
4. 4
is the right answer. Well done. That's €200. Are you sweating? Are you feeling the pressure? I can see it. Okay, question number 5. So when the Football Association took over running women's football and the national team, England's first game after that was against Slovenia. What was the score and how many goals did you score?
So that was 10-0 win and I got 4.
Just the 4 goals. Well, that's a statement, isn't it? You took over the women's game. Look at what I can do. 4 goals is the right answer. This is question number 6. In the 1995 Women's World Cup, can you name the 3 teams England played in the group stage?
Canada, Nigeria, and Norway.
There's no stopping you now, is there?
That's it. I'm flying.
It's 100% so far. With a little bit of hope on question 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 7. Also about the 1995 World Cup. This is raising money for Deborah UK. In the 1995 World Cup, you were subbed off in 2 of the 3 games in the group stages, with the same player coming on to replace you. Who was that player?
Oh, I've got 2 in my head.
Name them, and I'll tell you if you're close. Go on,
Karen
name both of them. Right.
Karen Burke.
It's neither of them.
Ah.
Do you want some clues?
Yeah, give me a clue.
You've already mentioned this lady in conversation. Look at that. Straight in there. Hope Powell is the right... Which is really funny that you met Hope Powell in the Met Police five-a-side football tournament, and years later, she's coming on as a sub to replace him in the 1995 World Cup. It was Hope Powell. Okay. Question number 8.
All the time.
In the top 10 list of all-time England women goal scorers, 4 of them have first names that start with the letter K. Can you name 3 of them?
Oh, that's tough. Kelly Smith.
At number 2 with 46, yes.
Karen Walker.
She is joint 4th with 40 goals.
Kerry Davis.
Number 3 with 44 goals. Go on, let's see if we can get the full house. Do you know what we'll do? If you did get the full house, shouldn't do this, but we'll make this question €100 just for this question alone. Do you want some clues?
Karen Carney.
Oh, no, you don't need any clues. You were straight in there. Look at that. Number 8 with 32. All right, do you know what? I'm going to put €100 for that, so it's €450 up to now. Okay. You won the Little World Cup. I still love the fact it's called that. The Mundialito. The Little World Cup. Was it a Little World Cup, by the way? I envisaged a very small World Cup. Is that what it was?
No, it was a big trophy.
Oh, it should have been a Little World Cup. Right, you won the Little World Cup twice as an England player. In what years?
87 and 89. 89 and 91.
No.
85, 86, 80.
Oh, look at the pressure. I'll allow one more guess.
Was it? I'm sure it was 87. Maybe I'm wrong. I am wrong, obviously. 88 and 90.
No, it was 1985 and 1988.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think we won it.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, 85, yeah, because 84 was the first one.
85, 1980. Yeah, I think you lost in the final in 84. But 85, 88. So that's when you won the Little World Cup, the Mundialito. I love that.
But if you'd have asked me what the score was in both of them, I'd have flown through them.
I love the fact it was also just played in Italy. Talk about home advantage. The Little World Cup, the Little Italian Cup it was. Anyway. Question number 10. You've referenced this already. You scored the winning goal in the 1985 FA Women's Cup final versus Liverpool, pretty much in Liverpool. You scored the winning goal in what minute?
82nd, I think it was.
Actually, I did say on my question, I'll allow 3 minutes either side, and you said 82. You actually scored it in minute 81.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. 81 is when you scored the winning goal, and that was it, 3-2, and you won the FA Cup. I make that a flat-out €1,000 going to Deborah UK, because one of the questions we did actually bump up for no reason whatsoever to a flat €100. That was question number 8. So €100. Sorry, €100 for that question. €1,000 going to Deborah UK. We'll get that sorted. I want to say thank you for your time. It's been absolutely superb. All the best for this season. My team are Sheffield United, and I know you'll be playing them in the Championship as well. So when you're up at Bramall Lane, I'll come along and say hello. I've got to say as well, actually, I watched the highlights of, because it was the final game of last season where Sheffield United won 1-0. I don't want to bring it up as Sheffield United.
Yeah.
But Rendell, your goalkeeper, pulled off the most phenomenal save, tipping it over the crossbar. And I was like, wow, that is outstanding. Yeah. I can see why you conceded the second fewest of the entire league. It was amazing. I wish you all the best for this season. And just to reiterate, what's your hopes for Southampton this season? What are you aiming for?
We have to aim to be in the top 2, looking at promotion.
Into the WSL.
To the WSL.
Hey, and I hope you achieve it. I'm fully behind you. Thank you, Marieanne Spacey, Cale. It's been a privilege to talk to you, and welcome into the Clubhouse. And that is it for this edition of In the Clubhouse. Stay tuned to Clubhouse TV for all the details of the next guest who will appear in the Clubhouse. And until next time, it's goodbye.